Hey all, this is Reddit Tosker. Today the latest Monster Hunter Wilds trailer released, and I'd like to talk about it, but not about the whole thing. We're not taking a holistic approach and we're not analyzing the whole trailer. I leave that to people better suited for it. Instead, in this video we're going to talk about only negative things, or things that have me somewhat concerned. And that's not because the trailer left me with an overall negative impression, far from it. I'm sure I'm just as excited and hopeful as the next fella, but a man should stick to what he's good at, and one of my very few talents is whining. And so I feel it's my responsibility to complain and be a downer, especially in moments of celebration for everyone else. Now the first thing that has me concerned is that there seems to be an equivalent of the Wirefall mechanic. In this shot you can see the hunter take a big attack from the Chotacabra, which knocks him to the ground. Around the moment he gets hit, you can hear him whistle for the mount. Around 3 or 4 seconds after the whistle, the secret comes up to him while he's prone, and the hunter seems to automatically get on and ride away from danger. At first glance, this seems like the equivalent of a Wirefall mechanic in Monster Hunter Rise. And while I liked Rise, there were a lot of things about it that I felt were unsuitable for a new mainline Monster Hunter game. Things I was hoping got left behind. First and foremost in that list was the Wirefall. I hate the Wirefall. I think it's so strong that it's difficult for the developers to balance monsters around it. And while they certainly made attempts to balance it, especially towards the later game monsters, I don't think they ever really got it right. So I am worried to see it here. On the other hand, it might not be so bad, it doesn't seem anywhere near as strong. From the moment the hunter gets hit till the time the mount arrives is like 3 or 4 seconds, which is a big downgrade from the instantaneousness of the Wirefall. It's also not clear if the hunter is safe while he's doing it. The process of getting into the mount and going away might not have any iframes. And he's not getting away from it particularly fast. It's not like the Wirefall. He's not immediately going a long distance in any direction towards safety. And it also looks like it's less useful in an aggressive way. With the Wirefall, if you get knocked down, you don't necessarily have to use it defensively. You can use it to get back into the fight if you want to. And while you can probably do the same thing with this, it doesn't look like it's going to be anywhere near as useful as the Wirefall for either going back into offense or retreating into defense. But this does bring up another problem: sharpening and healing while mounted. I like the sharpening mechanic in Monster Hunter. As your weapon gets dull, it becomes weaker, and you'll have to find an opportunity to sharpen it, and sometimes you'll want to do that mid-battle. To do that, typically you'd have to go into the lengthy sharpening animation, which risks you getting hit if you're doing it in the middle of a hunt. And there are ways to mitigate that cost, by getting skills that reduces how much time it takes to sharpen, or other skills to increase how much sharpness you have or how quickly it degrades, and you'd have to make build decisions as to what you think is best. Monster Hunter Rise though introduced the Palico mount, which allowed you to get onto the mount quickly and sharpen while you're moving, reducing the danger of sharpening mid-combat by a lot. Monster Hunter Wilds also has this mount, and if you can sharpen on that mount, which I suspect that you can, then the cost of sharpening will be even further reduced than it was in Monster Hunter Rise, because you have access to the whistle, and the whistle will call the mount to you and you can ride it very quickly. I think it unfortunate that the importance of sharpening and the cost associated with it is being reduced and minimized game after game. Finally, something that has me somewhat concerned is the focus mode. When you go to the Monster Hunter website, you can find a description of this focus mode, and this is what it says. Focus mode allows you to aim your attacks and guard abilities. You can also use focus mode to pinpoint monster weaknesses, which can be targeted with special new attacks that will deal big damage. By making it easier to space yourself and aim your attacks during hunts, focus mode will make it even easier for players of all stripes to get into the hunting action. Now I find this sentence and paragraph ambiguous. I'm not sure exactly what it's trying to say, but it could be a few things. It says that in the focus mode it makes it easier to space yourself and aim your attacks during hunts, and that it will make it easier for players of all stripes to get into the hunting action. That sentence, especially the part that says easier to space yourself, makes me think that maybe it's something similar to a Dark Souls lock-on, where you'll be locked onto the monster, facing it, and are able to walk backwards while still facing the monster, and in so doing get proper spacing for your following attacks. And I hate that idea. If that's what this is regarding, then I reject it in its entirety. If I wanted to play with the Dark Souls lock-on, I'd go play Shadow the Erdtree. It's not what I come to Monster Hunter for. And frankly, I hope I'm misinterpreting that sentence. which is a possibility because the top section kind of implies something else. It says that during focus mode you're able to pinpoint monster weaknesses. And in the part of the trailer that they're playing behind the focus mode description, it shows the moment right before the hunter lands the greatsword attack that he drags across the monster's face. Right before that attack, you can kind of see parts of the monster's body highlighted. It looks like scout flies are hovering over its weak points. The next part of the sentence says that you can use special attacks on monster weak points for big damage. So there's some potential that it's only talking about the skills. Maybe only the skills have this lock-on tracking ability. But frankly, I don't think so. I think all of the things are true. If you look carefully at the scene that's being shown behind the focus description, it shows the hunter going into a stance. And in that stance, he's locked onto the monster, and he's walking backwards slowly, which seems to reflect that spacing description that was on the thing. And if I'm right and that's what it's talking about, then it's not that bad. Because you can only do this spacing Dark Souls lock-on thing while you're in this focus mode stance, and it looks like the hunter's mobility is greatly reduced. He doesn't look like he can just run around and do whatever he wants. I'm interested to see on how this focus mode is going to work. How often can we use it? How quickly does it recharge? And is it going to be the equivalent of the Silkbind attacks in Monster Hunter Rise? Which is something I also might have a problem with depending on how it's done. It could be perfectly fine. I could see this being well balanced. But it's also something I'm going to look at with great interest. I'm going to keep a cautious eye out to see how they explain it in future trailers and interviews. Mechanically, those are the only things I have to comment on. But there is one last thing I saw in the trailer that I don't like. Take a listen to this. As you can see, the Palico is talking. Let me show it to you again. That isn't the handler, that's not of any of the other NPCs, that's the Palico, talking in it what I can only describe as a very annoying voice. I am not happy with it. I think it is a bad idea to give the Palicos actual English voices. It was perfectly fine to keep their dialogue in text, and their noises restricted to meowing, because you have to think, what does a Palico dialogue look like? What do Palicos say? What is the Palico gonna say during hunts? It's going to shout out tips with its real English voice and make Palico cat puns the whole time. And I can see that becoming very tiresome very fast. Anyway, that's the end of this video. Please unsubscribe and unclick the bell notification. I know how abrasive it can be to listen to someone be a negative Nancy when all you want to do is celebrate and be happy. Next time I'm sure to get you to unclick from the video in disgust. Until then though, thank you very much for watching.